Hey guys, it's David R. Becker here with Becker Art, and in today's newsletter video I want to talk a little bit about some advice I had gotten from a few of the most amazing artists that I have run into in a while. One of the artists who I ran into was Ricky Bios, and he was painting at the plein air event I was at, and I was watching him, and I got not so much advice from him, but I also watched one of his demonstrations. And watching one of his demonstrations was really cool to see what he had done with something that I always was wondering about that artists do. And so let me get into that right away. And I'll talk about the other artists I got some advice from also. Actually, Richie Bios comes from Texas, and he was doing a demonstration. Let's see if I can find it. No, not that one. This one. He was doing a demonstration of this little house across the street with this car. And when I first saw it, and when I sat down to watch this demonstration, I was watching him draw it up. And I was thinking to myself, wow, I want to see what he does with those really vibrant greens, because I rarely know any artist that really does them really well. And so I was wondering, like, oh man, how is he going to put those really bright, green? There's green everywhere, right? And so I just watched. I didn't ask him. I just wanted to see what he would do with those greens. And if you see what the painting is right there, you see what he did. He did not put them in. And he gave a reason for that too as he was painting, and it was a very good reason, and it taught me a lot about when you're out plein air painting or even painting from a photograph, that the colors in the photo or what you're painting does not necessarily have to be what you use to put into your painting, especially if you're an artist who wants to show a certain kind of effect or of lighting or a certain color palette that you want to use. So basically what he said was, if I use those very vibrant greens, which are almost like yellow greens, those lime greens, and then if I put them in the tree on top, that gives the area that much more attention. And he doesn't want his attention to go to that, because everything then is that green, like the background's that green, next to the car, next to the very distance back there. The tree itself, and on the right, upper right, in the photograph you see the actual picture, and everything would be that lime green. And so then your eye sees that first before anything else. And so that was a really good advice, and it also made me see that as you're painting, you don't have to use the colors that are there, and you have to paint it just like that. You can with enough work and knowing how to do certain trees and leaves, and if you've done a lot of them, you don't have to do exactly those leaves or that tree. So what you can do is you can just make up what you want and use it so that he wanted to capture the lighting and not use that vibrant green, because the vibrant green would stick right out in the front upper right corner, and that would, do you want your viewer to see that first? He wants the viewer to see the car and that beautiful. He kept on talking about the light that came across the front porch, and it wasn't there at the end here. This is the end of the painting, but there was on the porch there was a little bit of lighting, like in his painting. You can see in his painting that it get really light, and that light he was trying to capture. And so, and with a lot of greens, you go with there still has green in it, but it's more gray green. And so it was a great advice, and it wasn't even advice, it was just watching his demonstration, and I picked up a lot from watching his demonstration. It's so neat to be able to watch and ask also questions. A lot of people ask questions about certain things in the painting, but to watch him do this demonstration was really very cool. And so it's always good to watch demonstrations, ask questions, and even like on my videos and stuff, if you watch them, you may not learn everything I teach in the video, or I wouldn't learn everything from this painting, but there's one big thing, and I always say take away one big thing from when you're watching a demonstration or doing a demonstration or taking a class. Maybe one thing a day. Don't try to learn everything, because you'll forget everything. So just keep one thing in your head, one thing in your mind. And so that was Richie Bios from Texas, a watercolorist, and he also taught me. I remember back when I first met him, he was the first person I knew that would wax or varnish his watercolors and put them into like oil painting frames. And so his work was sold like you wouldn't believe at this event. And I watched him a couple times paint some things on the spot in plein air. We were watching him. I was watching him, and he actually put me in one of his paintings. It's like you can't really tell. I'm on a bridge way in a distance painting, looking at him and he's looking at me, kind of thing. And so anyways, so get some good information from people and try to find one thing that you can really latch onto, and study it too, and then ask more questions about that certain thing too. All right, so that was Mr. Rios, Richie Rios, and then I met in Reno at the Pace thing. I met Joseph Zubovich, and so that was really amazing. And so we were painting in Virginia City, and I was painting. Let me show you. I was painting this scene. Was painting this scene, and it was Virginia City. It's a cowboy kind of town, and who comes up to me but Joseph? He comes up to me, and I met him the day before, and I took pictures with him, and he was going around helping people, and he came up to me, and he wanted to give me some advice, and I said, sure, I would love some advice from you, Joseph. And so what do you think the advice was that he gave me on this thing? And it was kind of amazing, because I really never even thought about what the advice he had given me, but what he said about this image was he wished I would have pulled out farther. Like, I was against the wall though, but it doesn't matter. As a artist, you gotta design your work right and design it so it's inviting to people. And he said, David, if you would have just got a little bit more of the foreground, like don't start the walkway, the boardwalk right there in the town. Push it back, push it away, and then the cars would even be smaller, and they're not riding on the bottom of the thing. And I did have a little bit more in this painting. There was a little bit more, just a little bit, but not enough. And he was totally correct about saying that if I would have pushed things way into the distance, not way in the distance, but give the viewer a place to and get it so you can invite them into the painting. And also using or have more like negative space where there's nothing in it. And so there's so much in here, and nothing's blurred out, nothing is, so if I would have a lot more foreground, that could have been my negative space leading you into the street, into the sidewalk. And it was such a good advice, and I wasn't even thinking about that, and I never really thought about that either in general. And so then I just saw one of his paintings recently, this one right here. Let me just show you. Hold on one second. I just saw this painting of his that he just posted on Facebook, and I thought to myself, wow, I can see what he says. It's like he could have had those people way up front, really big. And that's another thing I did, and I've been doing too much of, is bringing them way up, real close to you, and making it so that there's so much involved. There's so many things. And I did that in Cedarburg, where I did a painting of a lady and his son eating a donut, and then there's all this stuff, and then there's a guy on his bicycle, and there was so much to look at, and it really helped me a lot, and the advice was just so good. And I started thinking about that, and I started looking at his work, started looking at my work, and it really gave me an idea. It's like, okay, now I got to start looking at it and getting more negative space that you let the viewer get invited into the painting. So that's what he said. He goes, invite the viewer into your painting with like this foreground. Look at this foreground. It invites you in to see the people with the dog and the car. And I mean, I would have pulled that way up in front. And so this, and I also, when I was painting in plein air in Traverse City, Richie Rios also did a painting kind of like this, where he did a lighthouse, and I saw him, and he did the whole lighthouse with the whole. He did it from the beach, and then I looked at mine, and mine was close up again, and the fence was right on the bottom, and then there was the people up in front with one of those things that you go under with flowering of things, but a trellis, and I had everything really compacted in, and so those. Both times now I've noticed that the advice that they gave me, and I took it and studied it a little bit, and it has really changed the way I'm thinking about how I'm going to design my elements. So, when you get to meet like an artist like Joseph Zubovich and Richie Rios, ask them questions or let them critique your work and take the advice. I mean, I've watched them paint, both of them paint, and it is amazing. And it's not only so much how they paint. I can paint with watercolor, but designing, that's a whole nother story. So don't ever, be afraid to ask them questions or let them critique your work. And if you don't like the critique, they probably know what they're talking about. And so I totally went for it, and I was looking at what they said, and I just started checking out my paintings, and lo and behold, all my stuff is in the front, and it's very close up, and I don't invite the viewer in. And there's a lot of them that, there's a couple of paintings I saw of his where he's very close to the edge, but then there's also other spaces that are not so filled with stuff, and a lot of soft edges, so that the viewer doesn't have to look at so much stuff in a painting, and a lot of dimension in there. So really good advice that they gave me. And so I'm just offering you, when I do my workshops and stuff, and I give you advice, yes, I can only give the advice that I know that as a teacher, of your painting, from what I see as a teacher. And but in my own work, it's so funny that I didn't even see that. I did not even see how I didn't have the center of interest in the thirds, or I thought I did, but a lot of times I bring up things too far close to the front of the image. All right, so take some advice. Take some advice from some good artists, and especially when you're taking workshops from them around the country, and even in your hometown. The better the artist. These guys, both of these guys, are super professional artists, and their work is outstanding. And so if you know their work is outstanding and they're doing it right in front of you, and I watch them, take their advice. Take their advice when you see a good artist and they want to give you some advice. All right. So that's this newsletter this week. And thanks a lot for coming to watch me on Thursday nights and Sunday mornings. And thanks for painting along and watching. All right. So thanks a lot, guys. Bye-bye.